You just cannot give up. You need to connect the people, you need to connect the processes, systems, data layer. RevOps helps to have a strategic execution in the go-to-market area.
Dear listeners, welcome to the Startup Sales Talk Season 2. And today we're diving into a very important and quite popular topic these days is RevOps, right? And how to nail it and even how to do it with play and how we can leverage a community. And today we have a perfect guest, Pawel. My friend, he's from Poland, right? And he's a RevOps advisor, solopreneur. He built very solid business on his own, working with a bunch of tech companies worldwide. So Pawel, welcome to the pod. Thanks for finding a time. And maybe you want to tell a few words about yourself.
Thank you, Dom. Yeah, it's great to be here with you today. And I'm super happy that we're actually chatting. We've met several times in person, but it's the first time we actually are recording an episode like this. And I'm super excited to dive into RevOps. I've been in the space for the last 8 years, even if it wasn't called RevOps in the past. So in many different areas like management consulting, sales operations, growth. But I would love to share a bit more about my journey and how I'm currently helping companies to drive transformation with revenue operations.
How you got in RevOps in the first place? Like what's the story behind?
Yeah, so the story is actually quite long because I have not started in RevOps. And even at some point, I've been doing RevOps not knowing that I'm doing RevOps. So that's, I think, when chatting with many people in the space, I feel the same thing. Even when I started to build a RevOps department at one of the SaaS companies I worked with, I called it initially growth management because I didn't know the term RevOps and it wasn't very popular. Like there were sales operations areas, marketing operations, but no one was calling it RevOps. And then it came to Europe and actually I realized, 80% of what we are doing is actually RevOps. So we renamed it to revenue operations. So the journey has been, I would say, quite long and with many pivots. I started first in management consulting at BCG. Then I moved to the startup ecosystem because I felt like that I would like to work on the edge of business and tech. And I started working in an ad tech company where it was actually a quite big company that was working already worldwide with more than 500 people and 50 sellers across 12 regions. And they didn't have any operations function supporting it. So you can imagine like 50 sellers and doing everything from operations, from analysis, CRM updates and data hygiene. C-level decided, let's build a sales operations function. And they brought like 4 people, mainly with consulting background, to build sales operations from scratch. So that's how I actually got into ops in startups or scale-ups already at that point. And I started building sales operations. But I would say that very quickly I realized that even though it's great, we're supporting sales, we don't know what marketing is doing, what customer success is doing, and what the strategy on the top level is doing. So we've been kind of contributing to one part of the business, sales, and it had some impact, but it was limited impact. So I would say this was the beginning of my story with RevOps, but doing it in a siloed way that I didn't realize that it's really blocking a lot of drive that you can do across the business. And that's actually where I then changed jobs to join a much earlier stage company at seed stage with 50 people, 4 people in sales, 4 people in marketing. And it was a perfect stage. I would say startup stage where you could build something from the ground up, build solid foundations. As mentioned earlier, I was hired as head of growth and build a team that I called growth management, but it was actually RevOps. So that's how I got into revenue operations.
And actually, I love that you made a step and joined it earlier in the company because I see folks who did that, they learned a lot in joining, early on, being hands-on everywhere, building departments from the scratch rather than joining the existing infrastructure.
Yeah.
Right. So, and these guys usually make not bad entrepreneurs. So, which leads to my second question is, I know that you tried and still I think you have in some extent lead gen agency, right? But you at some point you decided that you want to be solopreneur, right? So can you tell a bit more about that particular point to your career when you decided to make that move?
Yes. So after 3 years of building revenue operations at that SaaS company that I've mentioned, like it was in cybersecurity, fraud prevention. Then the company got acquired by a payment SaaS. But there I built the revenue operations department from scratch, like from one person when I was still a Salesforce admin doing reporting for VC fund and many other things, to actually building a RevOps team of 9 people, with having also mid management within it. And we went from seed stage for Series A, Series B, that actually ended up with private equity acquisition. So I spent 3 years there building revenue operations, and it was great, and it has driven a lot of growth. But I still felt that I'm only impacting just one business. And it was good for the time, and it was a great experience. But I would say that I felt I would like to help more companies out there to also see what revenue operations can do if they implement it right and if they implement it early on their growth journey. So then I actually decided, after those 3 years, I felt I did everything I could to build a solid RevOps function. When we actually merged with a bigger company, from a 50 people company that I joined, it became a more than 400 people enterprise, which was a completely different dynamics. And I felt that it's the right time for me to take this experience out and actually start an advisory journey. So first few months I was working as solo advisor, partnering with other advisors. And then I went on what you've mentioned, building a lead generation agency, because I felt like maybe it's good to build a company around it. I've seen some similar trends that were working in outbound. I've tested out Clay and many other tools that were helping to do it at scale. But after 8 months working with my co-founder, having a bunch of clients, I actually realized that I enjoyed the solo advisory more. So actually, over the last 2 years, when I left my full-time role, I've been a solo advisor first. Then I've built a lead generation agency for 8 months. I closed it down, and then I get back to solo advisory because I just felt it's more me. I'm a bit more of a relation-based person. I really like something I called go-to-market sparring partnership for founders, for executives, where I really work like people to people. I feel I can give value there. And when I was building an agency, I was often working in the background, kind of building the processes, enabling people. And it's also a great journey, but I just felt that the solo advisory path is more me.
Staying true to yourself, first of
Yeah.
all, right? But still, I think it's not red carpet, right? When you start even the advisory business, right?
Right.
There's probably a bunch of ups and downs, as in every area of business. What was the hardest thing you experienced when you started doing this?
Yeah, that's completely true, and I have to say, like the first 6 to 12 months of starting my advisory business and leaving a full-time job, which was very stable. You had a stable revenue every month. When I started, for the first 3 months, I've actually struggled to get recurring revenue because I've got some, small gigs here and there, but I couldn't see any repeatability. I didn't know what kind of income I will have next month. So I've been trying a lot. Also, my personal brand and presence and market awareness that I'm out there wasn't that strong at that point. I started building personal brand, but it still is a long-term process. So I would say the first 6 months I've really struggled with getting to some repeatable revenue from advisory work. I've even had like second thoughts, maybe I should get back to the full-time role. But I've got to this kind of inspiration from some of people in the space that helped me early on and that shared with me their own experiences. I'm happy I can now share a bit of this journey, is that if you stay long enough in the game, then you will start seeing results. You just don't, you just cannot give up too early, because, it's usually for any business, and even, when starting a product company, agency, solo advisory, you need at least, 1 year to really take off. And I believe it's true for any business. It's even for, new go-to-market motion, to make outbound, to make inbound work. If you didn't do it earlier, it's usually 6 to 9 or even more months to take it off. So I would say it's just a rule of doing business. And with time over time, month over month, I started to get more connected with people in the network. with potential clients. I started attracting some inbound, and it have helped me to actually keep moving on. But since that time, over the last 2 years, I think I've pivoted my offer 7 times. So I would say keep pivoting, keep moving on, and you will see that the opportunities are out there. You just need to show up more often, and you really need to build a strong network, personal brand to attract those offers. And then you just discover yourself where your strengths are and how you can contribute to real impact in the businesses. And that's how you're actually starting to gradually build more and more of the momentum.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're gaining the leverage, and it's a grind. The first few years is a grind, right? Either you make it or you break it. I don't know. Like,
Exactly. It's
I think, and
always
it's
like
all
that.
about. I couldn't agree more. It's all about resilience at the end of the day. Because to be honest, like the guys that I see building huge companies, right, or just doing extraordinary things in business, they're most of them are average people, but they're extremely stubborn and resilient, and that's about it. That's the
Right.
golden rule. So let's go to RevOps itself, right? So a lot of people heard about it, but probably not a lot of people know exactly what it means. So maybe Pavel, you can explain very simply what is RevOps.
Uh-huh. So I have one more simple definition, one more complex one, but for this purpose, I'll actually use the simplest definition I give. And I was thinking of this after many conversations and people saying, Pavel, you mentioned to me what RevOps is, I still don't get it, right? So then I thought I need to simplify this. So yeah, I would say how I describe RevOps right now, I describe it as a strategic growth function at a business that helps to connect the dots between revenue strategy and its execution. And there are many dots in between that you need to connect in the right way. You need to connect the people, you need to connect the processes, systems, data layer, enablement, analytics, and those are many dots. But actually, there are really two dots that you need to connect between. There are many steps to do it, and RevOps is taking care of that, supporting C-level, supporting sales, marketing, customer success. So it's a cross mission function, but it really always starts with strategy, because strategy gives you direction, where you want to grow in terms of revenue, in terms of go-to-market, and then thinking through and building the process and foundation and operations to actually have strategic execution. So I would say RevOps helps to have a strategic execution in the go-to-market area. So not only just execution in the business and operations, but the one that has strategic direction and contributes to revenue impact.
That's a beautiful explanation.
Thanks.
I can tell you that for sure. It's quite easy to understand now. Even for me, I had a bit different explanation, but now it makes sense even more. And let's take a hypothetical situation. So the audience of this podcast are usually people from the startup world. So let's say I'm a B2B SaaS founder. I just raised my first round of, let's say, 500K, right? I have some experience with sales, marketing, but haven't built anything hands-on in RevOps or anything like that, right? And I'm hearing a bunch of mentors telling me different things. Marketing mentor comes, hey, you need to invest in content. You need to push ads. I go to another mentor tells, hey, man, you need to buy sponsorships in trade shows, right?
Yeah.
I go to Pavel, and Pavel tells us, hey, you need to invest in RevOps early on and to think about that as a strategical function, right? But from your perspective, right, if you would talk to that founder, B2B SaaS founder who just raised first round, why I should invest as a founder in RevOps, first of all, as one of the top priorities, where to put my money in sales rather than to other things?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I would say RevOps can bring the most impact if it's actually brought to the company early on. And it doesn't mean that you need to hire a head of RevOps right away, or RevOps manager, or anyone in the business that has this function officially. Just to repeat, like, I've been building RevOps not knowing that I've been building RevOps, being a growth manager and then head of growth. But usually in the early stage, founders have this function, right? We even say about, like, founders are the first seller in the company, and then you are actually trying to transition from founder-led sales. But I would say the founders should also have the perspective that growing a business is not just about sales. It's super important, but actually in the business, you don't just have new customer acquisition, you also have current customers that you can expand, that you can retain, that you can really build growth loops with and have a lot of impact. But if you only focus on selling, which is important in the early journey, but you're not listening to your current customers, where is a gold mine and actually a lot of opportunity for driving more recurring revenue with lower costs, then you're losing big part of the picture. And I would say at that point, it's very important that the founder would have a RevOps mindset. Doesn't need to be, operationally a RevOps person who implements also all the tools, builds processes, connects go-to-market strategy to actually actionable 3-month or 6 months RevOps roadmaps to drive transformation. It all can be professionalized over time with specific functions, people in the business. But I would say having this mindset that revenue growth is not just about customer acquisition, it's actually about building awareness, about educating your market, then actually helping them to select your solution, then onboarding them properly, growing and expanding to their full potential and lifetime value. This is the end-to-end journey that is super important. And when I'm talking with founders at early stage who have this aspiration to actually look at their business growth end-to-end, also through the lens of the full customer journey, not just the beginning or some split parts, I usually introduce some of the models that are very well known in the SaaS or recurring revenue space. For example, one that I really like is Bowtie Funnel from Winning by Design from Jaco van der Kooi. There in Winning by Design, they worked with hundreds, if not thousands of SaaS companies, and they've built a scientific models behind recurring revenue growth. And they're really looking about growing a business is driving impact across the entire journey, from awareness, education to selection, onboarding, growth, and expansion. And I think understanding that there are several different pieces that you need to stick together. And again, maybe there are this many different dots that you need to connect from strategy to execution, which is the simplest definition of RevOps. I believe every founder should know how to connect those dots, right? So that's where I believe the founders should start. They should first know what dots there are in their business right now and how they can connect them to have synergies and to actually drive more growth moving forward than just growing linearly, but actually finding opportunities for exponential growth. And that's the mindset the founder should have. And I would say that's the mindset also strategic RevOps people, professionals, leaders in the RevOps space should have. So there is kind of similarity between entrepreneurs, founders, and RevOps leaders in this sense.
And when I see entrepreneurs trying to do that, right, barely they go to the export. Maybe they put that on the sales guy's shoulders. Oh, okay, this account exec or head of sales will do that. Like they take it as a granted, right? But if you hire head of sales or account exec, it doesn't matter that they know RevOps, right, in the first place, right? But what if you see that kind of team? They try to do something, maybe not super good, right, or not on the expert level. What kind of top mistakes you see they do?
Yeah, there are actually several, I would say, crucial mistakes that you can make when building the initial foundations for revenue operations. Again, even if you don't call it RevOps yet. I mean, I believe this should really be the founders, the C-level, the people who are showing the direction. They should build the foundation for how you're thinking about connecting all of your go-to-market areas together. Because what you mentioned, like I've seen many companies in which people in RevOps have been reporting to one of the go-to-market leaders, and very often to VP of sales, head of sales. But what you are creating then, you're creating a silo, and this RevOps person is only contributing then to sales. Why? Because sales becomes prioritized because it's the highest priority for that go-to-market leader. If you put RevOps to report to the chief marketing officer or head of marketing, it will focus 90% of their time on what marketing should do, and then sales will be not happy. And I could give more examples like that, but The main mistake that I've been seeing is the wrong reporting structure and the wrong positioning of the RevOps function within the company. I believe revenue operations should always report to the same person as sales leaders, marketing leaders, and customer success leaders are reporting, to be on par, to be on the same level, and be a partner, a sparring partner for those leaders. And again, also a person who creates a common space to ideate, to improve things, and this kind of middle ground that integrates the functions. So I would say the biggest mistake is to put RevOps under one of those single functions. It should rather report to the person who is managing those leaders. So usually it's the founder, VP of revenue, which is a broader title. But if VP of revenue is also 90% focused on sales, then it can cause issues as well. So I would say early on, it's always good to have a person in RevOps who's starting to build RevOps to report to the founder, because it gives you the authority to actually drive meaningful impact, not just be a task taker from one of the functions.
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting point, because 90% of the cases, this is exactly what I see. They under VP of sales or head of sales and reporting directly to them, and if marketing needs something, it's like they need to bribe the sales ops to do something for them.
Right. And then it creates a lot of problems, right? Because other functions get frustrated. And actually the mission of revenue operations, why it's not anymore like sales operations, marketing operations glued together, it's revenue operations, because all of those functions should drive revenue, and revenue is kind of an umbrella under which you can put marketing, sales, customer success, and also other functions. But if you are putting it under one of those leaders, you're creating a silo. And the mission of RevOps is to break the silos. So it's counterintuitive if you think of that this way, but that's actually how many people are doing it, because that's how they were doing it before. And they just simplify, let's now make an op function to help with some stuff. But then you have people who are RevOps people, quote, quote, RevOps people, who are doing firefighting, with some issues, taking tasks, doing like improving some custom fields in the CRM, but does it really drive impact on revenue, on the bottom line, on the customers? Not really, because you're hidden behind so many different walls and you're just taking the tasks and helping someone do the work they don't want to do, right? So it's actually a huge, huge issue. If you build RevOps this way, you're just robbing yourself from all the impact that RevOps can bring to your company.
Yeah, and it's not even a fault of RevOps, because they saw that example before, right? Or this is how they're being taught, right? That brings to the new venture that you have right now. It's a RevTech Accelerator, when you're going to teach the people actually how to do it, right?
Yeah.
And how it came about, how it became a reality. Like, what was the process behind actually launching this project?
Right. Yeah, that story is actually a bit connected also to the story how we met and how we've been building a community around go-to-market, a clay community in the Baltics together, and with conversations with actually many other people in the go-to-market space that I've had, that there is really a need for people who are early on in their advisory journey, building a consultancy or an early stage agency founders, who are looking to work to grow not only alone, but actually along a peer expert group that can support one another, and one-to-one mentorship coaching from people who have been there and who went through this journey before. So the idea and inspiration came actually from my observation that there is nothing like this in the space. I mean, there are several programs that are helping with that. And I, for example, am a mentor in one of those. It's Automate RevOps, where two of the Clay Club hosts from Buenos Aires are leading that, David and Marcus. And I've been collaborating with them on, bringing this impact to people. But what I want to say, there is just a tiny bit of these initiatives in the RevOps and RevTech and go-to-market space. And you can say there are so many accelerator programs for product-based, VC-backed SaaS companies like Y Combinator, Techstars, right? And I would say I've been seeing this missing piece, and I've been hearing it from many people. And in my own experience, when I was starting my journey, I struggled a lot. And I was reaching out directly to many people who have been already 2 years ahead, 3 years ahead, asking them how they got there. And this is what helped me to actually stay long enough in the game. But for some people, they can get demotivated during the journey and they don't have the right support, and they don't have also the right support from people who have been in the same shoes. So I would say this was the main inspiration for that. Yeah, and I'm super excited actually about this new chapter where I can kind of give back and drive some impact across this area.
Yeah, congratulations. Really, it's I would say very unique thing currently and well needed, right? And when you're launching your first batch.
I'm actually launching the first cohort in middle of June, so it will be the week of June 16th. So it's pretty soon, like in 2 weeks' time from now, and I'm super excited about that. Actually, I've already got 50 people sign up for the waitlist when I shared the news initially. I have already some people confirmed, so there are less than 10 spots right now ready. I want to keep the group small and selective to have this one-to-one experience, because I really believe in one-to-one mentorship and coaching combined with peer group learnings. There are sometimes courses and programs where you have only one-to-one, and there are cohort-based courses or programs, acceleration programs, that are only in the groups. And I believe that combining these two ways of learning, where you have one-to-one mentorship, because every journey is unique. You need that to build your growth plan, to build your business strategy, offer, positioning. But on the other hand, working with other peers who are at the similar journey and growth stage can be super beneficial, and you can learn from one another. So I want to combine those two in one place, but I want to also keep the group small on purpose. Don't want to create a big course, because then the interactions would not be the same. So that's some of the learnings I also got from building the Clay community, where in the Clay clubs we aim to have between 20 to 50 people on a meetup, not a big event of 100 plus people, so that people can interact with one another, can share inspiration, can do some pair programming, and can build workflows together and just help each other on the journey. And I believe this has been also a huge part of inspiration into building a program that is this kind of high touch program that combines one-to-one with peer group learning and a lot of other exciting things.
Very exciting. And you mentioned Clay, right? So, and you're building a community in Europe for Clay, and you said that you are extremely busy because you're right now opening 2 clubs per month, which I believe can be quite intense.
Yeah.
What it brought to you as an entrepreneur and individual, like this activity in your professional life?
Yeah, that's a very important topic actually for me, because it all started a year ago. Like, I came across Clay first time like 2 years ago, and I was super impressed by the tool itself, because it was kind of a missing piece I had in RevOps area, where I could connect those dots, many dots across data, automations, workflows, embedded AI, and I got really excited about the tech. So I became quickly a creator, implementation partner, started implementing Clay for my advisory clients. But then Clay reached out to me a year ago to whether I would like to start building a small local community in Warsaw. And I felt like, oh, that's actually a great initiative. So we had our first Club Warsaw meetup last July, so almost a year ago, in a small building office of a friend of mine, like 25 people, and then it actually started to grow. The word of mouth started to spread, and people were more and more excited to have those meetups. We are now having the 7th one actually in a year, that comes in 2 weeks. And for me personally, like, this journey was very enriching in meeting literally tens and hundreds of go-to-market builders and people who really want to build both hands-on but also want to be on the strategy part, and who are ambitious about the innovation going on in the space. And even though it's called Clay Club, it's around Clay, we've had like panel discussions and events on specific topics that are really super important for the growth in general in the go-to-market space, like outbound copywriting with AI. And you've been actually at that event in Warsaw. That's where we met. And I would say for me, connecting with such a big network of excited, motivated people who want to learn, who want to grow, it actually gave me a fresh motivation to also grow, to discover what I want to do. And actually, I think also the fact that I'm now running this mentorship program and that I shifted a bit my focus from project work to more of mentorship and coaching and helping others grow, it's been also a lot of inspiration that came from building a Clay community. I just found myself enjoying it more and more. And I believe that's some purpose that I found in what I do.
That's beautiful, actually. And Clay people are the best, really. Like the, it's always a good time with Clay people. This is what I know. For
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and I still recall our time in the Baltics, actually in Vilnius, and just this way of connections that I think you and your co-founder Carlos, you've been driving like 4 or 5 hours from Vilnius to Warsaw on the same day and then coming back. It's an amazing motivation that people have to kind of connect with one another. And then a few months later, actually, you were one of the co-hosts to launch the Clay Club Baltics, and I came to visit you there. And I've had a great time, you showing me Vilnius and around the city and connecting with the go-to-market ecosystem there and a lot of builders. I think it's just connecting people because there is something in it that it brings people with many backgrounds, but with the same goal to grow together, to really innovate and be on the forefront of innovation in this space. So I think that's a great place to be.
Absolutely. And can't you tell me a bit more about the event that's going to happen on June 13th in Warsaw?
Sure. Yeah, actually, this one is a very exciting one because we're co-hosting it together with HeyReach. So it will be Clay and HeyReach event organized together. And we have many people coming from abroad also for that event to Warsaw. There will be Nick, CEO and co-founder of HeyReach, Bernard, who is leading ecosystem and community there. And I would say several other people that will be invited from all across Europe, because we want to make it a kind of full day event showing the power of partnerships in GTM and ecosystem-led growth. It's kind of a new term that is being used, but I believe more and more ecosystem in which you are growing is becoming even more important than just building your own single solution. That's how actually Clay also started to grow. They build an ecosystem of integration partners, data partners, and community that help them grow to where they are today. And I believe that this kind of events, when we are actually partnering with companies that are working together, Clay and HeyReach, they have a native integration, they are growing together and building a lot of things together to bring more impact to the go-to-market teams all across the world. Now we want to bring them together to have a great panel discussion about the power of partnerships in GTM, to have an invite-only workshop before the event for power users of Clay and HeyReach to see what's possible and push the tools to the limits. So it's kind of hands-on, bring your laptop initiative. And then we want to have, showcases, presentations, some time of quality networking. And there will be even an after party for, for our last event before the summer seasons kicks in. So if you're around and would like to come to Warsaw, you should definitely join us.
Pavel, at least to learn one thing from Vilnius, you need to have beer in these meetups.
That's right.
So I'm glad that we're going to have a official after party, with all the complimentary things.
Right. It will be an exciting evening and actually a full day of diving
Nice.
deeper into
Exciting.
this, but also kind of connecting with others. And I believe this is a super important part. If you want to grow, either whether you're a founder, you're having a full-time job, or you're a consultant advisor, I cannot stress enough the power of good network, of quality networking, connecting with others, and having this kind of a peer group with whom you can grow. It makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, Amazing. So I'll be there as well, 99%. Yeah, booking tickets today.
Perfect. We've just spoken
Okay.
about it, like,
Yeah,
before
exactly.
recording this podcast, and Dom is already coming. So if you're listening to this and you would like to join, we have like officially a limitation for 60 participants, but you can always stretch it a bit. So if you want to come, reach out to me or Dom, and we'll make sure there is enough chairs in the room.
Definitely. So in the description of the podcast, definitely will find all the details for event if you need, if you feel a need, to come. And yeah, I encourage you strongly to visit. Okay, so Pavel, I think we're moving to the end of the episode, and I want to ask last few things, right? So, what's the workflow tool habits that you use all the time in RevOps, right? You can even tell a few of those.
Sure. So I would say one that I always use when working with any client is the workbook, the kind of the framework I've developed for identifying and mapping your ideal customer profile. I believe it's one of the most important things for any company to understand what is your ideal customer profile. You don't want to go after the entire market, bowl the market, no, bowl the ocean, bowl the ocean there, because it's then you're not prioritizing things and you're spending a lot of resources on clients, market segments that will not convert. You need to understand first what ideal means to you, because again, like we use ICP as a buzzword, but if you think it's ideal customer profile, an ideal can mean different thing to a VC-backed company that needs to maximize revenue and market share, but a different thing to a company, bootstrap company that want to have higher profitability. Then ideal customer would be the more profitable one, maybe not necessarily the one with the highest revenue. So I would say understanding really and having a process to map your ideal fit customers, good fit customers, and bad fit customers to have this exclusion criteria. It's one of the best foundations you can actually build for clarity in your go-to-market approach.
And do you use any particular tool for this?
I would say when it comes to the tool here, I'm using Google Sheets, so that will be not very innovative in the way of the format, but I believe like sometimes using a simple tool to map things out, and sometimes I'm using Miro boards and other things for this type of thing. I like to follow what I call an MVP approach to building your go-to-market strategy. Some people try to over-engineer, build everything and have a library of a lot of resources, documentation right away. And it's needed with time. You need to structure things, etc. But initially when you're ideating, I mean, even a piece of paper and writing down what your best customers in the past had in common and what is your current strategy, it's good enough to start. It's MVP one, your ICP. Then you map it out with more detail with some parameters in terms of critical events, pain points that they're experiencing, some firmographics, some signals and personas within your ICP, and you can make it much more actionable and split across ideal, good, and bad fit. So it gives you more clarity, and then you can move it actually to activate it across tools that you're using to go to market. So I would always use it in a phase approach. But I have some frameworks that I've developed for the workshops that I do with clients for in-depth discovery, and that's been very useful. No matter what kind of tools they are using or documentation systems internally, we just can create the first draft, and then we can build on it.
Okay, nice. And so, where can people follow you? And especially if someone wants to join your RevTech Accelerator, how they can do that easily?
Yeah, so there is actually, since two weeks ago when I announced this new initiative, there is a RevTech Accelerator page on LinkedIn, so you can follow there for any upcoming news. We've already got news about the official tech partnerships with Heyrich, with Twain, with Clay, and some new one coming next week. So you can stay tuned there. Also, my LinkedIn profile, I'm sharing a lot about the journey building this accelerator and all the updates. But there is also an official website actually coming out early next week. So coming out in just a few days, and it will have the full program details. And yeah, you can follow it there. So I'm sure when it's published, I'll let Dom know so that he can update the description. And there you will find all of the details and can also get in touch with me if you'd be interested to join the first cohort starting on June 16th.
Nice. Okay, so thanks, Pavel, for joining us on the pod. Thanks for your time, sharing your story, telling all these exciting, interesting things, and follow Pavel on LinkedIn if you want to learn about revenue operations, RevTech, and check out his RevTech Accelerator. So see you, buddy, soon.
Thanks a lot, Dom, and see you soon at the event in Warsaw. Looking forward to meeting you again.
See ya.
Goodbye.